Can the famous God hand nippers justify their price tag? I'll attempt to find out. In the package you'll find Japanese instructions, a leather sheath, and
the Alpha and the Omega are plastic sprue clippers.
I'll compare the God hands to two other clippers.
Thou shalt have no clippers before me.
At the risk of offending clipper-based religions, here are some initial impressions. I've had the GW clippers for years. They are quite beat up. The cutting edges have some battle damage. The GW clippers look cool and feel solid, but you're definitely paying for product design and GW marketing with these. I think the lack of a spring makes them more awkward to use. You have to open them with your fingers as you use them, and it's a bit like using chopsticks. The Army Painter clippers are a more recent acquisition and are probably closer to like new. They have a more utilitarian vibe, more like something from a hardware store. The God hands do feel fancy. They are light but solid. I feel like I'm holding a fancy thing when I use them. The real question for me is, can the God hands save time? Will I have to scrape less with a knife or file while building models? Let's see what they do to plastic. Here you can see each of these cutting plastic. The resistance is noticeably different. The first time I used the God hands, it was like the plastic wasn't even there, like the sprue was made of butter. That did give me a little thrill. How did they do? Well, the Army Painter and GW clippers are about the same, to me at least, as far as the burr they leave on the part. The God hands are definitely better. The burr is minimized, but it is still there, so I usually had to return to the area with a file or knife to remove material. Did it save time? Maybe, but only a very tiny amount. One potential drawback of the God hands is that they fall into that almost too nice to use category. People ask me why I don't get a new car, and I tell them because I'd have to wash it. You need to take care of these things. You are only going to use them for tiny and relatively soft bits of plastic. Don't go digging into some giant piece of resin. Don't use them as impromptu wire cutters or toenail clippers. They are special. They are for one job only. They are not just a tool. They are an obligation. They are a devotion.
Serve me.
So who are these for? They are the best sprue nippers I ever used, but like a lot of high-end stuff, the law of diminishing returns is hitting hard. You're paying 3 or 4 times the price for something that is 5 or 10% better. I think if you already have a yacht, a top hat, and a monocle, then the God hand nippers are your logical next step. For everyone else, I think there are better ways to spend $70. I can probably have endless fun making videos about them, talking about them, and maybe making my poor friends feel even more poor, but that's not their intended use. Or is it?